Hey everyone, welcome back to the Stakehouse community call. This is community call number 8. Thanks for joining. Hope everybody has had a good couple of weeks. For those who are joining us for the first time, I guess just a little overview of what we focus on here and sort of what Stakehouse is. Stakehouse is an extension of the e-staker community. And what we do is we focus on building tools that lower the technical bar to staking and or promote the health of the beacon chain. So we have a few different initiatives. The overall agenda today is we're going to talk about multi-client GUI projects that we've been talking about for the last few meetings, get some updates from those teams, maybe hear anything that anybody's been working on, struggling with, any updates that they have on their projects. Then we're going to talk about a few other projects that folks have been working on related to beacon chain health. Stuff like guides for validator metrics, some client diversity things as well. We're actually going to have a particular focus on client diversity today, talking about a few different things there. Then we'll open it up to any new projects that are here that want to share and talk about maybe what they've been working on and sort of just bounce around different ideas. So that's sort of the gist of it. I want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you guys want to jump in with any questions, or if you want to speak and talk about a project or an idea that you have, please either just jump on and just jump in and speak, or you can post questions in the Stakehouse channel on the eStaker Discord. And yeah, that's just about it. Before we really jump in, I want to just introduce a few people that are helping make this possible. Remy Roy is here, familiar face from previous calls. He's running our streaming setup. He's sort of a co-lead of the Stakehouse community. Are you here, Remy? Cool. I'll also introduce Superfizz is here, obviously from the eStaker community. I'm sure many of you guys recognize him.
Hello, I hope my stuff is working. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can. There's a little background noise. Are you like under an airplane or something?
It's so funny. It's not the first time I've heard that, but I don't know how to fix it. So I apologize for that. There's no noise where I am, but I don't know how to cancel the noise right now.
It is all good. We can still hear you. Just make sure to just be on mute when you're not talking, so there's not too much background noise. Also, I want to introduce Mike Shaw-Unot, I guess. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he's been instrumental in helping with communications and sort of helping organize these calls. His mic is not working today, so he's not going to be able to say hi, but he's here. And then, of course, there's Buddha, who's the eStaker Discord genie, who makes everything happen behind the scenes there.
Hi, everyone. If you have questions, you won't be able to unmute yourself, but if you ping me, I will unmute you.
Cool, yeah, so I got that wrong. So ping Buddha, and he will certainly unmute you. Cool. So that sort of does it for intros. Reminder, post any questions in the Stakehouse channel on the eStaker Discord. I'll jump into sort of the first agenda item, I guess. So checking in on multi-client GUI challenge projects. There's sort of 4 projects that have been primarily participating in these discussions. That's Steerium, DAppNode, our Wagyu, which is a project that's being worked on by the Stakehouse team, and Chain Guardian. So let's see. I see some Steerium folks here. Do you guys want to jump in and present first?
Hey there, yes, of course, that's not a problem for us. For our team, the past 2 weeks were pretty busy. We had an audit that was pretty unexpected because the auditor team had an open slot and they just started right away. So we're pretty much finished with our security audit. And it's going great so far. We didn't found anything critical, which is very good. And we just released, with the last release that was on Monday, some fixes regarding more security for our project.
Wait, did I hear that properly? Since the last call, you both got your audit started and completed, and you've already implemented most all of the minor fixes they recommended?
Yes, we started right away on the following Monday from the last call, and they are pretty much complete with the audit of all the stuff because our code base is not that big, and we use certain frameworks to keep it very small, so they don't have that much to audit. And yes, we already fixed most of the stuff, especially the major stuff or the important stuff. But as I said, there was nothing critical to be found. And the report will follow soon, and I hope we can publish it in the next week.
Awesome. So we'll stay tuned for that. Definitely send that over to we'll try and publish it out to the community as well. And so then once you publish the report, I just presume you'll have a release that has the officially audited code with all the fixes?
Yes, some fixes are already implemented with the last release from Monday, and we will have the next release also in our 2-week release schedule with the fixes in it.
Awesome. That's super exciting. Cool.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. Any other updates to share? I know that's a pretty substantial one, so I'm not expecting anything else, but anything else you guys want to share?
No, not yet, because everything else that we were talking last time about SSV for other clients and so on was pushed back because of the audit.
Cool. Makes sense. Yeah, it's great that you guys got prioritized there and then were able to get through an audit. That's really exciting. One thing that I forgot to mention actually is this call, we are actually live tweeting updates from the Stakehouse community Twitter account. So if you guys want to follow along with that or this in the future, we've been publishing some recaps there, but we're actually live tweeting now. So go ahead and take a look there if you'd like. Sweet. So let's move on to the next one. It looks like Sam was just able to join. Gray Wizard, our project manager behind the scenes. Sam, do you want to actually share your screen so folks can tune in and read along on the notes?
Yeah, sure thing. Can you hear me, Kofax?
Yep, I can hear you great.
All right, great. Let me see if I can get this working here.
While you're setting that up, it looks like James, he asked a good question in the chat. What are all the projects conducting multi-client GUI projects? We have an ongoing list of notes from these calls and sort of updates that are shared. There are 4 projects, and we sort of keep all these projects in line there. Let me find the link for that real quick. And I'll post it in the chat. Let's see here. Sorry for the delay. Looks like someone's asking for the Stakehouse Twitter handle. Maybe, Mike, can you? Yeah, perfect. It looks like that used the tag. Can you just drop like a link to Twitter in there as well? Yeah, so James, we'd love to have you in the conversation as much as you'd like to be. We have a lot of the conversations here. And sometimes there's some side chats that happen and stuff, so we'll make sure to get you involved in anything that happens. Do we have anybody here from the DAPNode team? Doesn't look like it. I saw a cool proposal for DAPNode to include all clients. I didn't have a chance to read the whole proposal, but is anybody here? Maybe, I don't know, Superfizz, did you want to talk about that at all, or is there anybody here that's familiar with that proposal?
I don't know a ton about it. I do know that we have been working in some private groups for a few weeks to. So obviously, the first stumbling block, DAPNode has never been resistant to including multi-clients. But before they can include clients need a web UI. And obviously Prism was the only client that had a web UI. And so the current push is to get Teku, Prism, and Nimbus to have them. Now, Lighthouse, the web UI is being developed by a fellow named Akil Muhammad, who is really doing a lot to organize these web UI developers. Teku says that it's not in their roadmap to develop a web UI, but they would welcome one that was developed by the community. And so we're still sort of looking for someone who will do that. And then Nimbus is, I believe they're working on their own web UI. Now, the DApp node interface, I'm not sure if they're using the same web UIs that are being developed with Akil's group, or if they're developing their own. But it seems to be several different people either working in different angles or maybe converging into having these web UIs. And that has been one of the biggest holdups toward getting further integration.
Cool, that makes sense. And I think this proposal works on facilitating maybe some grants for specific web UIs or maybe web UIs for some of those clients that will allow those barriers to be broken down for DevNode. So I recommend checking that out, and maybe next week, I think Lansky, who usually participates, is on vacation this week, so maybe he can come and talk about that a little bit more next week. On to the next one. Is anybody from the Chain Guardian team here? Cool, no worries. I think I'm not sure if they're out, but they aren't here this week. So then I'll jump in for Wagyu. A couple updates both through the keygen and the installer. So as you guys might have seen, we launched our first version of the installer, of the keygen client last week. And we have it hosted actually on a website that we just created, wagyu.gg. So I'll post that in the Stakehouse channel. So here is where we're gonna also do releases through GitHub, but for now we have a build that's downloadable here for Linux, Windows, and Mac. And you can download and generate your keys. Currently it only works for, yes, Buddha made the website. It's very beautiful. Pay all the credit to him. Please test it out. It's only for the Prater testnet right now. Submit your feedback to us. We created a feedback form. That is linked here in this tweet that we sent out. I'm pasting a link to that now. And yeah, let us know how it is. There's been already a lot of good feedback and some edge cases that we didn't catch for example, like saving keys into a directory you don't have permissions into. So please provide feedback. We will send out a POAP to everybody who provides some meaningful feedback or even just a meaningful account of their experience. So fill out the form that's linked in that tweet, and we'd love to have you sort of test it out. And once we have a little bit more testing done, we are going to push it through for an audit and then as well as release mainnet support. So that's sort of on the keygen side, but that's largely feature complete at this point. As for the Wagyu installer, that work is now ramping up now that we've shipped the keygen client. And so we spent some time this week just sort of refining a general spec for what features a multi-client GUI needs at a minimum. So for example, of course, setting up and installing and managing your ETH1 node, your ETH2 beacon node, and your ETH2 validator. Also supporting things like updating your clients, maybe even like auto update, which could potentially be enabled, displaying pieces of the data like the number of peers that you have, maybe the block number that you're on, things like that. So we're refining sort of a spec to sort of drive the iteration of the next iteration of the design of our installer. And then we're also designing an API that sort of will connect the front end to the back end. And so right now, our front end and our sort of back end node management infrastructure is pretty tightly coupled. And what we want to do is we want to make sort of the UI as generic as possible so we can have multiple different sort of backends managing the nodes. So you could think maybe we'll have like a Docker implementation through sDocker, which we're working on now, but maybe somebody would want to also have a native installation supported as well. So we want to make that interface as clean as possible. And so that's the next step that we're working on, and we'll be continuing to work on the F-Docker integration going forward. So hopefully we'll have some exciting updates for the installer next week. So next on the agenda, that's pretty much wraps it up. Next, why don't we revisit some projects that have presented in the past? For some reason, my stream is not loading from Sam's screen. But Sam, can you read off some of the projects that presented last time?
Yeah, sorry, I might have kind of sketchy internet where I'm at right now. But the next thing that we had was some updates. We talked through some updates from Remy about validator monitoring guide and demo. Last time Remy was working on ETH Docker integration and things like that.
Yeah, Remy. Cool. Nice work. There was actually another call, I think it's going to be released next week, that the Ethereum Capitors held, talking about monitoring. They met with the Barcelona supercomputer folks with some of like the monitoring data that they process and sort of talking about a standardized monitoring API. So that's pretty cool. I recommend checking that out. I'll post the link in Stakehouse once it gets released next week. But that was a fun call to see. Is anyone from,
oh, go ahead, Colfax.
Yeah, no worries. Is anyone from SSV here? Sounds like not. But I was talking to SSV folks earlier today, actually, and they are new testnet push. I think it's going to actually be like an incentivized testnet. And so there's a Medium article that we'll post in the Stakehouse chat. But if you're interested in participating in the SSV testnet, take a look at this Medium post. Maybe Superfizz, if you have a second, if you could drop that link into the Stakehouse channel, that'd be great. And maybe they'll be able to join and talk about that a little bit next week and sort of talk about how that's going. I think that testnet is actually going to run at the end of the year. So that should be fun. I'm excited to set up a SSV setup and sort of play around with that. So next on the list I see is F-Docker. Yeah, so Sam, the stream finally loaded. Is Yorick here today? I don't see him on the list.
Akil just joined. I think Akil was working on the tech UI. Am I right?
Sorry, Buddha, I couldn't hear you.
So Akil just joined. I'm not sure if he was here when we talked about the tech UI, but I think he was working on the tech UI, so that node can integrate it.
Oh, nice. I guess, yeah, Akil, do you want to talk about anything else? UI, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's nice to see that you joined. I've unmuted you.
Yeah, it wasn't let me speak now. I'm just listening.
There you go.
So I don't actually have any involvement with Teku, but Lighthouse, and then a little bit about Nimbus as well. So just listening in, and then some more focus towards the client diversity stuff. So seeing what you guys have going on.
Hey, cool. Akil, can I ask you, do we know if anyone has picked up the Teku request for a community developed web UI?
So the last we spoke was that individual, his name was Suburban Ted. So I do have him in the client packages channel. So he says he's going to continue working on it in the meantime until we have something from the Lighthouse side, and then go from there, progress from there accordingly.
And so Suburban Dan has been around a long time. He is a great connection. I would really encourage anybody who's looking to fill a hole right now, to reach out to Suburban Dad and ask him if he would like help with the Teku web UI. It seems like right now the other bases are covered and it's just taking time to get them done. But Teku might be the one that we will be waiting on. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, you can find Suburban Dad on the eStaker Discord. Just search for Suburban Dad on the people. I think you should be the only one. Cool. So the next bullet point that I want to cover is sort of a new bullet point in the agenda and why it's important, and then note a few different things that are going on in the space. So I guess first to kick things off, Superfizz, can you talk about diversity a little bit and why it's important and why we're focused on it right now?
Yeah, so it's hard to know where to start, but client diversity is the choice design of the beacon chain. The design of the beacon chain was to be set up as a protocol rather than a single client system. And so if you look at other chains, I hate to mention any of them by name, but if you look at any of the other common chains, they have one implementation, and that implementation defines everything about how the chain works. The beacon chain is designed to be more ubiquitous than that, and so to harden the protocol, the decision was made to solicit requests from teams who want to develop clients, and we actually began with around 9 implementation teams. We winnowed down to 4, and now we're back to 5 because Lodestar, I think, is Lodestar now running clients, right? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have Prism, Teku, Nimbus, and Lighthouse, and ideally they would be divided. Well, and we'll add Lodestar in there too. Ideally, they'd have each 20 or 25% of the client share, and what that means is if one of them either doesn't follow the protocol spec, or if they encounter something that's not yet written into the spec, then if that client somehow drops out of consensus, then it's okay. Because if we lose one client, then we fall maybe to 80 or 75% of the network, and we continue finalizing blocks and everything works just fine. But if one client holds a majority share of the network and it drops out, and we know that's been the experience with Prism, then the chain can stop finalizing, or it could actually fork. If they have a super majority, like 66%, they could fork off and run their own chain. Now, when they get called back into the original chain, that could cause a major slashing event. That's not something that I really want to focus on because I'm not a doomsday kind of person. But from the proactive side, we as a community have a responsibility to seek some kind of balance with the clients. And right now, our goal is to get Prism below 50%. I want to be so careful when I say that we're not against Prism. And in a few months or years, we may be encouraging people to switch back to Prism. But right now, what the network needs for sustainability and stability is to balance these clients out. And so the best decision would be to probably switch from Prism to Nimbus is the least represented, or even Lodestar. I haven't tried Lodestar in over a year. To be honest with you, I've been on vacation for the past for a couple weeks now, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm speaking accurately. That is the client that's updated, just because I haven't followed. But switching to one of those minority clients improves the robustness of the network when there is a fault encountered. And the thing is, we know that because the network is so new, because we haven't accessed the EVM yet, we haven't done the merge, we know there are going to be hurdles with the protocol. It's not going to be a surprise. We know that it's going to happen, but what we need when it happens is that the client that has the fault doesn't take the whole network down with it. And right now, with Prism having a supermajority, if Prism were to go down, it would take the network down with it, and we really want to avoid that. The other side of that is, I'm desperate to encourage people not to get into client tribalism, not to pick one client and say, I only run this, like I only run Lighthouse or I only run Prism. Really, the role of a operator is to say, I run the client that the network needs. And so right now, the network needs you to run something like Nimbus. And so rather than being stuck in this clear channel of I only do what I want, we recognize that we're employed by the network and we do what the network needs from us. And that's just kind of a mindset that I want people to develop and begin working in.
Yeah, I love that explanation. And what really comes to mind is like the idea of why we're building everything we are in Ethereum. Like we need to have decentralization of the clients that we use as well.
I also have a little bit of alpha if anybody's interested in a free POAP. If you submit the word, let me get this word, hold on. Oh, I've missed it. I believe it's Triforce, to the POAP mobile app. You can snag a POAP. Just, sorry, it's a little free add-on.
Nice. So speaking of POAPs, we do have a POAP for this call. We've been farmed pretty hard in the past, so we're actually not going to publish it like in a screen overlay like we have in the past. But the code word, we're going to use the POAP bot, the Discord POAP bot. So DM the Discord POAP bot the following code word. Maybe Grey Wizard, since you're sharing your screen, can you type it? It's client diversity, one word. If you DM the POAP bot client diversity, you'll get the POAP for today's Stakehouse call, community call number 8. We'll mention that a couple more times before the end of the call. But yeah, thanks for coming to this. That's the POAP. But we're not done yet.
While Fizz was talking about client diversity, Prism just published a statement about client diversity, so check it out. I just posted it in the announcement channel and in the Stakehouse channel.
And that's funny. I was just listing all of the statements from the different clients, so it is awesome that Prism has followed up with that today. I've just created a new post in ETHStaker to start tracking client diversity, and so it is great to see that Prism has done that. We also, there's a new development in client diversity this week, and that is Michael Sproul's client fingerprinting. And so Michael Sproul is a developer with Lighthouse. He developed a technique for identifying clients based on block proposals. The original plan was to sort of catalog the entire network by client type and then offer a POAP to anyone who changed from a majority to a minority client. The pushback that I'm getting right now is that people who know better than I do want us to resist the urge to identify clients by validator. So we're just sort of working on a plan where we can still reward people who change, but we're not doxing any validator to reveal to everyone what client they're running.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line to toe there. And so it's a good idea to try and incentivize, like to encourage people to switch their, do it in such a way where you're not revealing too much information about specific validators. On that note, I guess before I share another thing, come back to the backlog of questions in the Stakehouse channel. Going back to the web UIs, James had a good question. Maybe Akil can chime in on this. What is the tech stack of the web UIs of the, say, for example, Lighthouse or any other ones that you
So it's mostly web technologies, React, etc. Just depends on if you want to wrap it into what's that other technology called for a native app?
Electron?
Yeah, Electron. So if you do want to have a clickable interface, you'll need it to be wrappable in Electron. Otherwise, it's just branded like a standard web UI. On that note, ChainSafe also just put out nodewatch.io if you want some more analytics on the different clients and what that reach looks like as well. So check it out.
Cool. Yeah, that's an awesome call out. I'm going to post that in the Stakehouse channel as well. NodeWatch.io has a lot of data around nodes and whatnot. And going back to React apps in the browser, I mean, that's exactly how WAG built as well. It's a React app, but we wrap it in Electron, so it's a desktop application. So it sounds like there's a lot of, it's basically a similar architecture across all these front-end clients.
Yep, so certain use cases will still be pulling in Grafana analytics, etc. So it's still basic web technologies. As long as you can get it on the front end, you should be good to go.
Cool, cool. So popping back over to client diversity, so talking about different like sort of education and maybe incentive mechanisms for how can we encourage people to switch and sort of learn why it's so important. There's a guide that I found, or somebody sent to me, that was posted on Reddit for sort of a basic step-by-step outline for what you can actually do mechanically to like switch your client. And so I, for example, set up my node with Somer's guide, and this guide is actually meant to be based on Somer's guide, but sort of showing you if you already have a Prism set up and you're running Prism, how do you spin Prism down so that you can get to a point where you can set up another client. So I want to post this guide here, and then actually independently, just to create another piece of information, I had started working on a guide that does the exact same thing. And I tried not to read the Reddit one just so I can develop an independent guide just in case there's anything that doesn't match. So I'm working on a guide here as well. I'm working on making it a little bit more narrative and still very much a work in progress, but I'll paste that here as well. So feel free to give any feedback either on Reddit to the Reddit guide if there's any suggestions that you have, or feel free to DM me. I posted the link to the gist on the guide that I'm working on just to get more education materials out there. Now, maybe somebody wants to switch, but they don't really know how. We eventually want to build tools that will help you automatically switch, which is sort of what we're working on with the multi-client GUI installers and Wagyu and whatnot. But for now, we're building some guides, and there's some guides out there for people to use to follow the switch. And I think Superfizz is actually working on. Yeah, go ahead, Superfizz.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Just today, I started a kind of link list post on eStaker. It does include the guides that I'm aware of, and I'll keep adding more. But a great opportunity is that eStaker is going to offer $350 in Ether to anyone who creates a useful guide. And so those guides are going to kind of be like, oh, I used CoinCashew, and I need to switch from Prism to Teku. Or from Prism to Lighthouse. And so the more of those guides that we have that fit the niche situations, the better off we are. And so not just written guides, but also video walkthroughs. If you can demo the changeover, even better. Maybe you're using a guide that someone already wrote, and you're going to do a video demo of that guide. eStaker looks forward to sharing $350 in Ether with you. We feel like that's a fair price for the work involved. And really, kind of like Colfax said, the more of these resources we get, some will bubble to the top and some will fizzle away, but we'll end up with some really valuable sources.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's, we're very excited. We eStaker are very excited to support folks in creating videos for existing guides, creating new guides, just as Superfizz said. So feel free to DM either Superfizz or me, or post in the eStaker Discord, tag one of us with your guides, and we're happy to follow up with you on that. Also take a look at Superfizz's post where he's compiling the guides, and maybe if you want to just create a tutorial video on one of those, that would be awesome. In making my guide, I tested out a feature that I'd heard about, but I'd never actually tested manually before. And it's the Teku initial state parameter, which is sort of this fast sync. And so it was incredible. Normally setting up a ETH2 node, you need to wait maybe a couple days for it to fully sync. with the utilization of the initial sync parameter or initial state parameter, sorry, for Teku, which I believe Lighthouse and Nimbus are also working on. It was able to sync in a test like within a minute, which was absolutely incredible. So that allows you to switch clients safely. You should probably still wait maybe, I don't know, like 10 minutes or wait for an epoch to go by. But you can then sync your beacon node on Teku or soon other clients as well, so that you don't have to be down for a couple days. So that's something I definitely recommend trying out. And I mentioned that a little bit in the guide, and Ben Edgington actually mentioned it in the comments in the Reddit post. So yeah, feel free to take a look at that. I highly recommend sync parameter. It's pretty cool. That just about wraps it up for everything I wanted to say on client diversity. Is there anything else that anybody wants to talk about client diversity or wants to jump in with any other projects? Cool. Well, I think that's just about it. I appreciate everybody coming out today. And so far, hosting these on Discord has worked out pretty well. We're kind of bummed that we can't do any video calls. At least screen sharing works, though. So we're going to continue to do these on Discord. And we also are streaming on YouTube as well. And you can reference the recordings there if you'd like to watch them in the future. So yeah, I guess if nobody has anything else or any closing statements, we will call it a day. So thanks everyone for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thank you for hosting me, Skullpack.
Thank you for hosting.
Of course.
Take care.
Thank you. See ya.
See everyone in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.